She stood under the harsh white lights, chained and silent. Her small body trembled in the cold air of the auction hall. Dirt covered her skin, and her clothes were torn. She didn't remember the last time someone had looked at her with kindness. The aliens in the crowd whispered and laughed, their eyes full of disgust. "She's broken," one alien said with a snort. "Too weak." "Look at her. She won't last a week," another said loudly. The auctioneer, a thick-scaled creature with long arms, slammed his staff on the metal floor. "Next, female, young, part of unknown species, trained but not tamed. Starting bid 10 credits. No one raised a hand. The auctioneer waited. 10 credits. Do I hear 10? The room stayed silent. 5 credits? Still no one moved. The girl lowered her head. Her long dark hair fell over her face, hiding her fear. She had been in many auctions before. Every time it was the same. They would laugh, then walk away. Some had even spat at her. Her stomach hurt from hunger, but she didn't ask for food. Slaves didn't ask for anything. 2 credits? The auctioneer shouted, now angry. "Nothing," he growled. "Fine. 1 credit. Someone take her. Worth something, maybe for scrap." Even then, no one stepped forward. She waited for the next words, the words she hated. Unsold. Throw her back in the cage. But then there was a quiet voice. "I'll take her." The auctioneer paused. Heads turned. The room grew still. Standing near the back was a human man. Tall, with a calm face and simple clothes. He wasn't rich. He didn't look powerful, but he had a strange strength in his eyes. He stepped forward, reaching into his jacket and placing a single credit chip on the auction table. Everyone stared at him like he was insane. Why would a human buy that? One alien whispered. "She's trash," another said. The human ignored them. He walked up to the stage, where the girl stood frozen in surprise. Slowly, he took off his own jacket and placed it gently over her shoulders. She flinched at first, expecting a hit, but the warmth of the coat made her freeze in place. She looked up at him, her eyes wide. No one had ever done that. No one had ever given her anything. "What's your name?" The human asked softly. She didn't answer. He didn't push. He just nodded and said, "Let's go." The auctioneer grunted and unlocked her chains. She stumbled forward but caught herself. Her legs were weak from standing too long. The human didn't laugh. He offered his hand. She stared at it for a moment, then slowly took it. The crowd still watched in silence as the human led her away. Some shook their heads. Others laughed. "Crazy human," someone muttered. But he didn't care. He led her out of the auction house and into the cool evening air. Stars filled the sky above. For a moment, she forgot her pain. The fresh air felt new, almost like freedom. They walked together, hand in hand, toward a small ship in the docking bay. She had never seen a ship so clean before, not huge, but warm-looking. As they approached it, the door opened with a soft hiss. He looked at her and said, "You're safe now." Safe, that word. It felt strange, like a dream. Inside the ship, she sat on a soft seat, unsure what to do. He brought her a blanket and a warm drink. She looked at it, unsure if it was a trick. But when she tasted it, she nearly cried. It was warm, sweet, real. He sat across from her and said, "I'm John." She looked down. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Zaira." John smiled. "Nice to meet you, Zaira." No one had ever said her name like that, like it mattered. She didn't know who this human really was or why he had taken her. But in that moment, something inside her began to change. A small light, buried deep in darkness, started to glow. For the first time in a long, long time, she felt seen. And maybe, just maybe, her life was about to begin. The journey to freedom. Zaira sat in the quiet ship, still gripping the cup John had given her. Her hands trembled not because of the drink, but because she didn't know what came next. Every time someone had taken her in the past, it ended badly. Pain, hunger, cold floors, loud commands. That was all she knew. But this ship? It didn't. Smell like fear. It smelled like metal, warm air, and something new hope. John didn't speak much. He simply walked to the control panel and began setting the course. His movements were calm, not rushed. No chains, no orders, no threats. Zaira couldn't understand it. After a while, John returned to the seat across from her. "You hungry?" he asked, pointing to a small food pack. She nodded slowly, unsure if this was another test. He placed the pack gently in front of her. Zaira watched him closely, waiting for him to slap her hand away once she reached for it. But he didn't. With shaky fingers, she opened it. Warm bread, fruit-faced, and a soft protein bar. It smelled better than anything she'd had in years. She took small bites, still watching him with guarded eyes. "You don't have to be scared," he said, his voice low and soft. "I'm not going to hurt you." Zaira stopped chewing. No one had ever said that to her, not once. She lowered her eyes. "Why me?" she whispered. John leaned back in his chair, thinking for a moment. "Because you looked like you had." "No one, and everyone deserves someone." Her chest tightened. Those words shouldn't have meant much, but they did. They cracked something inside her that had been frozen for a long time. The ship took off, smooth and silent. As the stars outside moved past the window, Zaira sat curled in her seat, the blanket wrapped tightly around her. The food in her stomach made her sleepy, but she fought the feeling. Sleep was dangerous. Sleep meant you might wake up back in a cage. John walked away to give her space, disappearing into a side room. For a moment, she thought maybe he'd lock the door. But he didn't. In fact, he left it wide open. She sat there for a long time, unsure what to do. Finally, curiosity pushed her to stand. Slowly, she walked through the hallway. Lights flickered softly above, showing clean walls and simple furniture. She passed a mirror and paused. She barely recognized herself. Her hair was messy. Her skin pale, her eyes tired. But there was something else. Her eyes were still sharp, still alive. Maybe not broken after all. She reached John's room and peeked in. He was fixing something on a small screen, typing with focus. He noticed her and smiled. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked. Zaira stepped inside. "This is your ship?" He nodded. "Built it myself, over 10 years. She looked around again. "It's clean," John chuckled. "Well, I try." She stared at the tools on the wall, the organized drawers, the soft lighting. "You live alone?" "For now," he said, then added, "Not anymore if you want to stay." She blinked. "Stay? But I'm—" She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't know what to call herself anymore. "You're free," John said. Gently. "You don't belong to anyone." Her heart beat faster. That word again. Free. She had heard slaves talk about it in whispers, as if it were a dream only the lucky ones reached. She had never believed it could be real. She stepped closer. "You really don't want anything from me?" John shook his head. "Only that you heal, rest, eat, maybe smile one day." Zaira felt her legs weaken. She sat down on the floor, too full of emotion to speak. She covered her face and let a few tears fall. Quiet, unsure tears. But John didn't move to stop her. He just let her be. Later, he brought her a pillow and said, "You can sleep wherever you feel safe. Take your time." That night, she didn't sleep on the cold floor. She curled up in a soft chair with a blanket wrapped around her like armor. Her eyes stayed open for a long time, watching the stars fly past the window. But slowly, they closed. And for the first time in years, Zaira slept without fear. First signs of hope. Zaira woke up slowly. unsure of where she was. The chair beneath her was soft. A blanket still covered her, warm and gentle. For a moment, she panicked, expecting cold chains or harsh voices, but then she remembered. The human, the ship, the food. She sat up and looked around. The room was quiet. Sunlight from a nearby star shined through the window, painting golden lines on the floor. Her fingers touched the edge of the blanket again. Still amazed it hadn't been taken away in the night, she stood up carefully and wandered into the main room. John was there, humming softly as he worked on a piece of machinery. He looked up. When he saw her, "Good morning," he said with a small smile. Zira didn't know what to say. No one had ever said good morning to her before. She nodded slowly, still unsure how to react. John walked to the food console and brought her a warm plate. "I wasn't sure what you liked, so I made a bit of everything." She stared at the plate. "So much food for just her?" "You can eat." "All of it," he said gently. Zaira hesitated, then sat down and ate slowly. She kept glancing at him, confused. Was this real? Would it disappear? After the meal, John handed her a small tool. "Want to help me fix this?" She blinked. "You want my help?" "Sure," he said. "You've got good hands." No one had ever said that to her before. People had only told her what to do, never asked, never trusted. She took the tool with shaking fingers and followed his lead. He didn't yell when she made a mistake. He didn't slap her hands when she moved slowly. He just showed her again patiently. And slowly she began to understand Dot as the hours passed. She laughed once, just a tiny sound that escaped her lips when John made a silly joke about a broken wire. She quickly covered her mouth, afraid it was wrong. But John only smiled wider. "That laugh suits you," he said. Later, when she spilled water on the floor by accident, she froze. Her whole body tensed. She waited for the punishment. But instead, John grabbed a towel and cleaned it up with a shrug. "It's just water," he sighed. "Happens to everyone." Zaira stared at him, heart pounding, no anger, no pain, just calm kindness. That night, she sat alone in her room, staring out the window. She didn't cry. She didn't shake. She just thought, Dot, what if this was real? What if this strange human truly meant to help her, not hurt her? For the first time in her life, a tiny spark of something warm began to grow inside her chest. Not fear, not sadness, Dot, it was hope. And it scared her more than anything. The past returns, the ship floated peacefully in deep space, far from any major star route. Inside, the air was warm and the lights were soft. Zaira was smiling. Not a full smile, not yet, but a quiet, gentle curve of the lips. She had spent the day helping John fix a faulty power coil, and for the first time in years, her hands weren't shaking from fear. She didn't feel like a slave anymore. She felt like someone. John was in the cockpit, running diagnostics. Zaira sat nearby, peeling a strange yellow fruit he had introduced her to. He called it banana. She liked it. It was sweet, simple, safe. Then suddenly, the ship's lights flickered. A loud beep echoed from the console. John's eyes narrowed. Incoming signal. Zaira froze, her body reacting before her mind caught up. Her hand dropped the fruit. Her heart pounded as if it already knew something was wrong. John tapped the screen. Unmarked vessel. No ID code. No response to friendly ping. The ship's alarm went off. Red lights flashed. Then a voice came through. Deep, cold, familiar. "We know you have her, human. Hand over the asset or be destroyed." Zaira backed into the wall. That voice, it belonged to the SLAVER. John stood slowly, his jaw tight. "They tracked you." Tears filled Zaira's eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "They put a tracker in me. I didn't know." John didn't shout. He didn't blame her. He walked over and said, "We're not giving you back. Not now, not ever." "But they'll kill you," she said. Panic rising. "They always come back. They always win." John opened the hidden compartment and pulled out a sleek, advanced weapon. "They haven't met me yet." The enemy ship locked on. A warning shot buzzed past. John steered hard, and the small ship rolled through space. Zaira held on tight, her memories rushing back, cages, beatings, darkness. But now John was fighting back. He fired the ship's defense system. Blue bolts lit up the stars. The slavers didn't expect resistance from such a small vessel. Zaira watched in awe as John moved with focus and fire. Not like the other buyers from her past. Not cruel. Not greedy. This human was defending her, risking everything for her dot in one bold move. John overloaded their main engine and triggered a blast. The slaver ship spun out and vanished into the Chisna von Chuthinavana, and the vanished and spun out and vanished into the fun out and vanished into the fana. Void. Silence returned. Zaira collapsed to her knees, breathing fast. John knelt beside her. "It's over," he said. "No," she whispered. "It's not. You'll be hunted now because of me." John looked her in the eyes. "Then let them come. I'll fight them again." "You're not going back." Her lip trembled. "Why?" "Because you're worth protecting." And just like that, her past couldn't hold her anymore. Not while someone stood in front of it, refusing to let it take her again. Learning to live. Zaira stood barefoot in the ship's small kitchen, carefully slicing soft bread with shaking hands. Not from fear this time, but from something new. Something strange. She was trying to help, trying to belong. The human had told her she didn't have to cook, clean, or repair anything. But still, she wanted to. She wanted to do something that didn't come from orders or threats, just choice. John walked in, his hair still damp from the sonic shower, and raised his eyebrows. "You're cooking now?" Zaira glanced up quickly, nervous. "I wanted to try," he smiled. "Smells good." That one sentence made her heart flutter. A simple smile. A kind word. Yet, it meant more than anything she had heard in years. They sat at the table and ate together. She watched how he chewed, how he used his fork, how he spoke between bites. She tried to copy him, quietly, trying to fit in. Trying to be normal. After breakfast, John showed her old pictures on a screen, images of Earth, green fields, oceans, huge cities. Children running, people laughing, families together. "Is this real?" she asked softly. He nodded. "That's home." She stared at one picture of a mother holding her child. Zaira touched the screen gently, almost afraid it would disappear. "What was your home like?" he asked. Zaira looked down. "I don't remember much. I was taken when I was very small. They said my world was too quiet, too peaceful, easy to raid." John's face darkened with quiet anger, but he didn't say anything cruel. He just listened, and that made her want to speak more. "I wasn't allowed to cry," she said. "If I did, they took my food. If I smiled, they called me broken, so I stopped crying. And I forgot how to smile." John reached across the table, not to grab her, just to gently place his hand near hers. "You don't have to forget anymore," he said. That night, as they worked side by side fixing an old panel, she dropped a tool. It clanged loudly. She froze, her eyes wide. But John didn't yell. He simply bent down, picked it up, and placed it back in her hand. "Accidents happen," he said with a calm grin. Zaira stared at him. "Aren't you angry?" "Not even close." Her chest tightened. She didn't understand this kind of patience. Later, when they were resting, she turned to him and asked the question that had haunted her since the day he bought her. "Will you sell me someday?" The words felt like poison in her mouth, but she had to ask. John's face turned serious. He didn't answer right away. Then, slowly, he said, "Zira, I didn't buy you. I rescued you. And I will never sell you. You're not mine. You're you." She didn't speak. She couldn't. Tears filled her eyes, not from pain, but something else. Something warm. Maybe this was what living felt like. And she wasn't just surviving anymore. She was starting to live. The truth comes out. Sarah stood in front of the mirror, holding the clean shirt John had given her. The reflection staring back still felt unfamiliar, her face no longer dirty, her eyes no longer hollow. But deep down, she still questioned everything. Why had he really taken her? No one had ever been kind without a price. She walked to the main room and found John sitting at the desk, going over flight plans. She paused in the doorway, silent for a long time, before finally speaking. "John, if someone offered you a lot of credits, would you trade me?" He looked up, surprised. "No, of course not." What if it was enough to buy a new ship, a better one? He stood slowly. "Zara, where is this coming from?" Her hands clenched at her sides. I need to know. I've been owned before. Bought and sold like an old tool. You say I'm free, but I don't feel free. I don't even know what that means." John walked over and opened a small metal drawer. He pulled out a folded document and handed it to her. "Here." She opened it with trembling fingers. Her name was written at the top in clean letters. Below it, the words hit her like thunder. Slave status. Officially removed. Citizenship. Independent. She stared at it, her mouth slightly open. "This is real?" John nodded. "I filed it the day I brought you here. You're not a slave. You're not a servant. You're your own person now." Her knees nearly gave out. She dropped into a seat, the paper shaking in her hands. I thought I'd be trapped forever," she whispered. "Even after the chains came off, I still felt them inside me." John sat beside her. "Chains on the body can be cut, but the ones in the mind? Those take time." Sayura looked at him, truly looked at him. He wasn't just kind, he was honest. He wasn't pretending. He wasn't hiding secret plans. Tears welled in her eyes. "I was so scared. I thought you'd turn like the others. That one day you'd snap and say I owed you something. That? This was all fake." He shook his head. "You don't owe me anything, not even your trust. I just want you to have a life. A real one. And if you ever decide to leave, you can. I won't stop you." Her voice cracked. "But I don't want to leave." "Then don't." Zaira leaned forward and cried, not from fear, not from sadness, but from relief. Her body shook as years of silent pain poured out in the safety of his ship, and John didn't move. He just stayed beside her, letting her cry, holding space for her pain without judgment. In that quiet moment, something inside Zaira broke open and something new grew in its place. She was no longer owned. She was no longer lost. She was finally free. She was never just a slave. Zira stood tall at the control panel, her fingers flying over buttons and switches like she'd been born for it. Her back was straight, her eyes sharp, and her voice steady as she called out the system checks. Power core stable. Oxygen levels clean. Navigation green. John smiled from the pilot's seat. "You're getting faster every day." She smirked slightly. "I had a good teacher." It had been 3 months since the day he rescued her. The girl who once cowered in corners and flinched at soft voices was now learning to fly, learning to speak, learning to live. Zaira had even fixed one of the ship's most damaged systems alone. When John saw her smiling proudly beside the humming engine, he realized something. She wasn't just healing. She was becoming herself. And now she had asked for something strange, something bold. To go back, she had said, to the auction house. John had hesitated. Why? She looked him in the eyes. "Because I want to stand there. Not as a slave, but as proof that they didn't break me." Now, the ship descended slowly onto the landing pad outside the same market where her nightmare had started. Zira stepped out first. Her steps were slow, but her gaze was steady. She wore clean clothes, a calm face, and no chains. Inside, alien traders looked up as she entered.